My fucking god. Could I just get over it? How about you ask Will Smith that question? Will Smith and I share this biggest fear. In Will Smith's own words, I don't fuck with the ocean. Do you ever conquer your biggest fear? Or is it always there? That's a question I have. This last couple of days of me reintegrating into the pool after a week break have been some of the worst that I've ever experienced while pool training or scuba training in general, for that matter. Yesterday was the absolute worst. I'd never expected to lose all of my collective training through the summer, but I did, in one fell swoop. Why did I take the week break off? Well, I'm a fucking female, and things about the female body every month prevented me from continuing on my pool training. But I continued to exercise. I just reverted back to a dancing routine. I never knew that taking a simple 1 week break from the pool was going to throw my entire mentality into chaos. Before one short week ago, I'd already worked my way up to at least 40 minutes submerged at a time. To be completely honest, even that's too little, because an ocean dive can last anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. I'd rather be prepped on the higher end of things, so I thought to myself, fine. What I can do is I can combine my normal 40-minute 2 times a day into one monster session, all submerged. My brain told me otherwise, but I'm just wondering where that came from. Really. I can understand if I'd done something in the water that filled my snorkel up and prevented me momentarily from breathing. That happens. Sometimes you gag, sometimes you choke, sometimes you cough. But the whole fucking point of training is that you have to recover from those situations, because, quite honestly, this is the easiest place that you can possibly recover from. If you need to, you just pop right up and breathe. In a real ocean scuba diving situation, you have to keep your wits about you or you're dead. That's the simple, short and long of it. You're just dead. Okay? So, I know this. I have plenty of experience in the pool and in the ocean, both using snorkel and scuba. So what's my fucking problem? I have no clue. All I know is it took me 2 sessions, that long combined 80 minutes, just bobbing up and down in the water. Okay? I never had a thought in the world that I would struggle, but I did. For a whole hour, 20 minutes, 80 minutes, I was just in, submerged, and out very quickly. But what caused me to come out so quickly? By my count, I think I did a max of maybe 5 to 10 minutes submerged. 5. Really, realistically. And then I just popped my head up. I panicked and popped, even though I could breathe properly, even though literally was the easiest thing I've done in my entire pool training forever. That's literally the easiest thing that you can possibly do that's even considered training at all. Submerging your fucking head. I slept on it. I thought I'd get over it. This morning, I struggled again. Again. I was hoping for the whole first 40-minute session to be submerged. I only got to half, 20 minutes. Finally, just now, in my evening pool training session, I submerged for the full 40 minutes and replicated a lot of what I had done before my week-long break. But I'll be real with you, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm extremely disappointed in myself. I'm disappointed because I really thought I was over this shit. I have so many more emergency drills to drill. Literally, submerging my head is the easiest of all the things I could possibly do and still be considered training. Okay? But for some reason, I popped my fucking head up so many times that I lost count. And to be completely honest, the lack of will from me was just a self-feeding cycle that's still spooking me as I speak about it. The reason is because it came on so suddenly and immediately. To be fair, maybe that's always been the way that I struggle with scuba diving. I never anticipated happening, and it just happens. When I was training to dive with sharks cageless in an aquarium, the first time I submerged my head while on scuba, I freaked the fuck out. I never thought I would have. I never even anticipated that happening. Otherwise, I would have taken the time to really think about what I was doing. But I was confident. I was in a case of not even fucking knowing what you don't fucking know. That's the worst. If you can at least anticipate it, you can take precautions. For example, in reflecting on how they force people to train to dive cageless with sharks in an aquarium, they force too much. They advertise it as no experience required. What they really mean is experience required. Every single person that I've encountered who's done that excursion, whether a strong swimmer or an average swimmer, has had problems. Now, of course, my end sample size is still probably less than 30, but it's large enough to know that people struggle with this. My shark diving group was small, but another person who's a competitive swimmer revealed to me that she also struggled. She just gritted through. Here's the problem that I've been weighing in my head for the past summer. How do you know when it's a legitimate problem versus something that you just have to grit through? I have no sense of which one I'm in right now. Okay, to be fair, I have a sense. I have a sense that right now, with the basic training, I just need to grit through it. But here's the problem. If I've shown such mental weakness on the easy shit, how do I expect to get myself to the same level, that same person who was a gangster in the ocean, quite honestly, 2 years ago? Have I really lost that much skill during the pandemic? That much skill up here? If so, I'm shocked, because I've been reviewing my vlogs from that period of time. That's why vlogging has been really important for me. I've reviewed it, and that's why my reaction to this is even more surprising. In 2019, when I tested for my PADI open water scuba diving license, I think I was legitimately suffering from a really severe case of post-travel depression. By all accounts, if I'm just to compare how I've been on this vlog now versus 2 years ago, I think I'm much better adjusted, even in worse circumstances, being a pandemic. But for some reason, I am performing in the water at most 50% of what I was able to do 2 years ago. What's going on? That's what I'm trying to solve right now. Because fuck whether I'm actually going to scuba dive this summer. Right now, with the way that I've been performing, the answer's going to have to be no. Right now, what I'm aiming to do is just get myself acclimatized so that when I want to scuba dive in the easier tropical conditions, I'm able to do that. But it's quite obvious I've lost something. I've lost something. And right now, I'm really trying to solve the problem. What is the something I've lost? If you were to ask me, I feel more mentally resilient than I did 2 years ago. If you were to ask me even just 48 hours ago, I would have never anticipated struggling the way I am right now. But it's happened. And again, this is par for course. After that failed scuba diving attempt in the aquarium, I tried again in the same country of Australia on the Great Barrier Reef. That time, given it was my second go around, I had a better understanding of what it's like to submerge your head with that full scuba diving mask. I had an idea of what it's like to breathe oxygen from a pressurized tank. It's actually very important because you never really know what it's like until you do it. And I thought to myself, okay, first time around I struggled, I had no idea. I didn't fucking know what I didn't fucking know. Now I know. I did better. But I still had something in me struggle. I was lucky in the sense that the Great Barrier Reef ocean dive was actually a shore dive on very shallow water. So the conditions were probably the best. They were warm. We had high visibility. We had an easy entry into the ocean. The conditions were about as stable as you could probably expect in the winter of Australia. So, with that second experience, even though I never went on the proper full dive, I felt confident enough to maybe put scuba diving as a future to do. But I never would have really classified it as my biggest fear. Or would I have? Maybe I still would have. But would I have? Yes, I actually would have. I'm going to go back on that. Yes. Will Smith and I still share the biggest fear from when I admitted to myself it's the biggest fear till now. He's also done the same thing. He's actually scuba dived, coincidentally, in the Great Barrier Reef. But on the same video where he delved into his greatest fear and even documented it for all to observe along with him, he also joked that this is the last fucking dive he's going on today. Now, I'd be curious, to follow up with him. Has he since done it? I'm also curious to know, is he PADI licensed? Did he go through the entire course? Of course, someone like Will Smith can easily cut through any red tape if he needed to, but here's a situation where I actually think it's good to follow the red tape. The red tape is really there for safety. And sure, in many of these situations you can cut through it, but the question is, what do you gain by that? They've set a standard because that standard is needed for safety. I actually agree with it. If anything, I'm well documented in this vlog as thinking that the standards are actually too lax. So I'm just curious. I'm just curious because since actually learning and testing for my PADI open water scuba license, I've only just added on the fear, but also I've added on the level. When I first submerged my head in the pool as part of the open water pool training, I freaked the fuck out then. When I first submerged my head in the ocean for my PADI open water ocean dives, I freaked the fuck out then. But in both of those cases, they were warranted. Especially in the ocean setting. In the ocean, I've already explained very clearly that Vancouver is one of the most difficult dive sites in the world. You have cold, low visibility, and those conditions magnify to make your gear heavier and your conditions harder. So everything that you have to be able to do in the tropics, you have to be able to do much better in cold water. When I first submerged my head in Vancouver's oceans, I freaked the fuck out worse than I ever have before, because I was literally plunged into a world of murky, muddy, darkness? But is darkness the right word? Darkness implies there's like me losing consciousness. I'd say there's still a beautiful array of aquamarine blue colors, but it's just a vortex of things, dirt, and grime. So at first, I panicked again, and then I swore at my teacher, or at the situation. I told her I was getting the fuck out. She calmed me down, to her credit, and I actually continued on, but those ocean dives were difficult. They were difficult. On my first ocean dive, I actually lost my group, and in Vancouver, the first site that we dived at, there's a vertical wall. I lost buoyancy at some point and then just rapidly ascended, bouncing up at the top of the waves. I probably legitimately should have failed that dive. I'm curious because at that point I was rushing the license in case I could scuba dive in Egypt, my 100th country. Jacques Cousteau, the originator, the OG scuba diver, the ergo inventor of it, has commented that actually the Red Sea is one of his favorite tropic sites, and Vancouver is one of his favorite cold sites. So I was aiming for the Jacques Cousteau double, and I failed on it because of other reasons that I've already explained. With regards to Egypt, those were all logistical. They had nothing to do with the water conditions. That was just an off chance, but I wanted to be in the position to execute on an off chance just in case. That's something that I've always been on board with. Be ready. Be prepared. That was because I was so woefully fucked the first time that I encountered scuba diving. I want that skill in the back pocket because I know eventually the things that I want to do are going to rely on me having that skill. Luckily for me, any of the major scuba diving situations would have been way out of my realm, even past the open water. They require advanced and many log dives. Those are the Blue Hole in Belize and the Continental Divide in Iceland. Both of those, while being bucket list once-in-a-lifetime dive opportunities, are also dives that require advanced skills. They require, more specifically, the advanced scuba diving license from PADI. That's above where I am right now. I mean, I actually considered doing that too, just to continue and build on my skills. But of course the pandemic threw that entire plan off. So again, where does that leave me with my biggest fear? The fucking ocean. I have no clue right now. I really am questioning. When I was in the pool, just right now in the evening, I kept repeating it to myself so that I could at least submerge for the 40 minutes and do somewhat of a normal training session. I repeated to myself, Raul Jundal, neuroscientist, what does he recommend when you're panicking? Breathe. 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 So I thought about that. David Goggins, Navy SEAL, and other special forces. What does he think? He thinks that when you're doing something, you usually are only doing about 40% of your capacity. Okay, I got this. I've been doing this. I've actually sought some professional advice on this because in Canada, for the pandemic, they have professionals free of charge to help you walk through situations like this that have been pandemic induced or probably otherwise. And their advice has been tough to hear. Their advice has been, you're the one who knows the technicalities of the situation much better than me. If you think you're ready, then you have a much higher chance of being ready. If you think you're off, then you're off. And you gotta stop. That's the difficult part. How much of it is that I'm genuinely off, and how much of it is that there's just something there. From all of the neuroscience that I've researched, that I've listened to, is that there are going to be some times where you literally do have to grit through things. You have to be resilient. Now, my question is, when does that actually meet up against a hard technical limit that you have? Given that I've done this stuff before, I'd argue that my problem is mental. I've only gotten more physically fit, more physically capable during the pandemic. So everything has to be a mental issue. To be fair to myself, it's been about 2 years since I've been solidly pool training. So yes, you lose capacity. Reps are important. Even in dancing, I should know. I've been dancing all throughout the pandemic consistently. 2 hours a day, 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. When I took a detour for the HIIT challenge, high intensity interval training, I lost a little bit, but I was okay. Now that I've replaced it with pool training, I've lost a little bit, but I've been okay. The thing that I've been surprised with is that I seem to have actually done better the initial 2-year break off from pool training. Now maybe it might be that I expect more now. I am expecting more. How could I possibly be expecting me to just stay at the same level? I'm really trying to recreate the emergency drills I was able to do 2 years ago. I think the bare minimum is to be able to do intensive exercise while holding your breath underwater for a minute, because that simulates the emergency drill you need if you run out of oxygen at 18 meters, 60 feet. That's how deep open water scuba divers are licensed to dive. So I need to be able to do that, and to be completely honest, I should be able to. I am able to, but I've had difficulty executing. So I'm trying to figure out where am I missing. Even if I'm gonna defer on this year's scuba diving season in Vancouver, I have so many other things that I'm thinking about that require me to have this skill. So one thing that I have debated a couple of times, and I've even probably mentioned, is diving with great white sharks off Guadalupe Island. When I was in South Africa, the previous shark capital, great white shark capital of the world, they had already essentially disappeared off that coast. As much as I've had the best luck with wild animal trekking, that's one that I missed out on. So where's the most consistent place? Actually, California and Mexico in that basin. I have some options in California. I can probably do all of that, hit all of the major locations, Guadalupe, Farallone, Monterey Bay, all of them. I can hit them all. But I have to have the capacity to be in the water all the time. For example, the Guadalupe trips are several days and several nights. It's all you can snorkel, diving, and cage diving. The diving actually has some limitations for practical reasons, technical reasons, dive reasons, but they basically open the surface cages dusk to dawn, and you're free to dive all you can. So for wild animal treks, volume is king. Volume is how I eventually accumulated the big 5 sightings in Africa, despite the leopard being so exceedingly rare. I had to trek through 13 countries, 4 months for that motherfucker. That last leopard mom and her 2 babies. Some people who trekked about 2/3 the time with me never observed a leopard at all. So that's the thing. This is one of those things with wild animal encounters. You do volume, that's the way to go, and that's the way that I planned it. That's why for sharks, the same thing. The last thing I want to do is travel all the way and have it fail. What I'd rather do is go for volume. Volume, volume, volume. If they're going to open those cages dusk to dawn, I'm either going to be in those surface cages or I'm going to be diving on one of their dives. Luckily, they accept open water, which technically you are supposed to internationally, and you can dive, you can surface, submerge. That's the thing. That's what I actually like about the way that those trips are planned. They have A, B. They have an A, which is scuba diving, and then they have a B, backup B, which is surface diving. So you never have to have all of your chances in one basket there. But I mean, that means this is all resting on me to get that skill up. I need to get that skill up to where it's useful, because Vancouver, fuck it, whatever. But a major animal trek that I want, the great white shark, is relying on me to be good at this shit. So get your shit together. This one, I'm pointing at you, okay? Get your shit together. Did Will Smith get his shit together? Will, if you're out there, drop me some motivational lines, eh?